Hi, this is Susan Godwin, and I'm here today with Jessica Deese, and we're talking about Advent and the celebration of Advent. By the way, this video is only for parents, so if you have little ones around, I would recommend that you just tune into this video when it's only parents, for parents only. So today we want to talk about some of the challenges that families face, and especially parents, celebrating Advent and Christmas in our culture, in our society today, because we have a very commercialized celebration of Christmas, and sometimes that can present real challenges for parents. So Jessica, I was wondering what kind of challenges you have faced with your children in celebrating Christmas.
Well, I think being a part of our church community just provides a beautiful antidote to all of the
Mm,
things that could potentially be problematic or
mm-hmm,
difficult to navigate because we have all of these rich traditions that we've been sharing about, from the Advent wreath to nativity sets, some other things we've not talked about that Gertrude covers in her book, To Dance with God, that I would recommend, celebrating the Feast of St. Nicholas and St.
mm-hmm,
Lucy's feast
mm-hmm.
day, that there is no lack of celebration, and we aren't then pressured to lean so heavily into the Santa and
Right.
gift getting narrative
Mm-hmm.
that is the only narrative, and from the cultural point of view,
Right.
because we have so many things that
Yeah. Yeah.
we're participating in along the way, and it's not that I abandoned the Santa narrative.
Hmm.
It just took a side seat to the real story.
Hmm. Mm-hmm.
And to me, that was just so liberating and
Mm-hmm.
helpful, so that it wasn't the only thing we had to talk
Right.
about as a
Yeah.
family. We had so many things to talk about and do together. And
Right.
so it's just been such a gift to have this book and this community to
Mm-hmm.
celebrate and journey with, so that my children have this really rich tradition that's steeped in the truths of the bigger story. But I
Mm-hmm.
did want to share just how that really came to a beautiful fruition, and
Hmm.
when we did get
The
inevitable,
big question.
the big question, which
Yeah. Is Santa
is
real?
Santa real? And it was just one of the most sacred conversations I've ever
Hmm.
had with my kids.
Wow.
And all of the years of doing this together really equipped me to have that
Mm-hmm.
conversation. And my daughter was the one who came to me with the look in her eye like, I mean business. I need you to tell me the truth.
Uh-huh.
Is Santa real? And it was after church, and I just said, we're going to talk about this at tuck-in time with your older brothers, and this isn't a question that I can answer. Just, it's not a yes or no question.
Mm-hmm.
So that night at tuck-in time, they all knew we were gathering, and I was able to open up and say, you know, there isn't a man who comes down the chimney and delivers gifts, but sometimes something that's so big and true, ordinary stories just won't do. They don't cut it, And
Mm-hmm.
the real story isn't about a man bringing gifts. The real story, as you all know, because of everything we do, the
Right.
real story is about God's love for us and the gift of Jesus. But those are kind of difficult, the nature of God's love. It's hard to understand as a
Mm-hmm.
young child, and so you have to personify it, and Jesus is obviously the personification. The He is the way God, He is God. But to help a child connect more with that reality,
Mm-hmm.
the Santa story serves a helpful role,
Right. Right.
because it helped all of you understand truths about God. God is relational. God loves you. God's love is abundant and
Mm-hmm.
joyful and unqualified, and it's
Mm-hmm.
playful, and all of the things that we know about Christmas that Santa helps a child connect to
Beautiful.
is
Mm-hmm.
true.
Right.
And so they it was such a beautiful moment. But then they asked me a question that I wasn't really prepared for. They said, well, if you were telling us, comfortable letting us believe the Santa story, why were you not as into the elf story?
A tougher question, right?
I think I mentioned in a previous video that the elf was not something that I could really lean into, and I was able to just in that moment say, because the elf story is based on a premise that I don't quite buy into or think is a healthy connection to what is real.
Yeah. How is it different, do you think?
Well, the whole behavior base that the elf is watching you and reporting. I mean, that's the storybook. That's the narrative. And I know a lot of parents work around that or shelf that story, no pun intended, and infuse a more meaningful story. But it just was hard. I just didn't need to retweak that story because of all of this. And it was just, again, liberating for me. And so, but I was able to just say to my children, like, that story didn't feel true to me in the way that the Santa story is true in these bigger ways.
And connected to St. Nicholas, too.
Right. And so, we were able to talk about St. Nicholas and how that these are all people who reflect the truth about God's love. And Santa, even though he's not a real person like St. Nicholas, Santa still reflects the truth about God's love.
Right.
And so it was really
sounds like it was a really sacred moment for you and your family.
It was.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. Thanks for asking.
Yeah. So that's one of the challenges, and you may have some challenges as well with your family or in your home in celebrating the holidays and celebrating Christmas and Advent in a meaningful way. And if you do, you can send them in to Gabe, or you can hashtag
Get ready.
Get ready. Yeah, we'd love to hear from you.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.